These German tourists went missing in Death Valley National Park, and no one really knows why. Death Valley National Park is a notoriously inhospitable landscape. It's known as the hottest place on Earth, with the world record highest air temperature of 134 degrees Fahrenheit. This was recorded at Furnace Creek on July 10th, 1913, and as far as I know, it hasn't been broken yet. The desert, which sits in a basin almost 300 feet below sea level, gets an average of just 2 inches of rain a year, and when precipitation does come, flash floods are common. Obviously, summer is one of the most dangerous times to visit the hottest place on Earth, which might help explain what happened to 4 German tourists who disappeared inside the park in July 1996. The visitors, 34-year-old Egbert Rimkus and his 11-year-old son, and Cornelia Meyer, 27, and her 4-year-old son, were in the U.S. exploring California for a month. They rented a minivan in Los Angeles and then entered Death Valley on July 22nd. They were scheduled to fly back to Germany on July 27th. So merely 5 days later. But they never made it out of the park. The minivan was found in October of that same year by a ranger flying over the southern portion of the park that was looking for illegal drug labs. He spotted the vehicle in Anvil Canyon, which is a federally protected wilderness area of the park with no active roads. The van was stuck in the sand, the doors were locked, and 3 of the tires were flat. Investigators linked the minivan to the Germans after tracking down the rental info, and they were able to trace their itinerary through receipts and wire transfers. So after entering the desert on July 22nd, they camped in Hanaupa Canyon. Around that time, temperatures were hitting the mid-120s. Based on a logbook signed by the Germans, rangers believe the group were attempting to cross Mangle Pass, which is a rough 4-wheel drive only road at the end of Butte Valley. But they couldn't make it, and they tried to reroute through the roadless Anvil Canyon. Now, I'm not sure if they knew the road was roadless or not. No one really knows. Rangers dispatched teams to search for the Germans after discovering the minivan, but were only able to find a single Bud Ice beer bottle that was located 1.7 miles east of the site. After 4 days and more than 250 people involved in the effort, the search was called off. Getting lost in the desert and dying of heat stroke is the most plausible answer to the fate of the Germans, but the fact that they disappeared without a trace is puzzling, to say the least. Some suspected foul play, possibly regarding illegal drug operations, and others suggested the Germans staged their disappearance to start a new life. Or could the Germans have seen something they weren't supposed to at a nearby military institution? This area of the park also was near a ranch that just so happened to be associated with Charles Manson and his cult. Theories circled the lost Germans for more than a decade. It wasn't until 13 years later that 2 avid hikers and search and rescue members from Riverside County, California, they had been researching the disappearance and found remains of the adult Germans in a remote and rugged portion of the park. They found them 4 miles from the border of the China Lake military facility and 8 miles from their minivan. More bones were found on subsequent searches, but there wasn't enough DNA to connect the remains to either the adults or the children. So what do you think happened?